so much gloom hiding the reality. It's just a beautiful day. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. It's just yeah, it's a beautiful day. Yeah, it's a beautiful day. It's just yeah. Take a look into the sky. Take a look into the sky.
Look in the sky.
Keep your head up high.
High. Keep your head high.
Take a look into the sky.
Off and running on this Thursday, day number 10 of Gulfstream Park Championship Meet. And this is Gulfstream Today with Ron Nicoletti, Jason Blewett to his right. And delighted to have your company, Ronnie, as we settle in and everybody out there with 10 races on the card. And, man, this weather, you just can't beat it.
Keeps getting better and better. Right now, it is absolutely fantastic here. People that might be in some snowstorms up there, we're really sorry. But days like this, we have to talk about.
Well, come down and join us. We've got room for everybody here at Gulfstream Park, and a nice Wednesday crowd on hand here yesterday. In fact, quite a few people hanging out in the sun, and there's plenty of sunshine to go around in Hallandale Beach. The good news, and I can guarantee this, and we try to avoid speaking in guarantees or absolutes because it's life and it's thoroughbred racing. But Todd Pletcher will not win a race today here in Florida because he's got no horses entered. But
that's the only reason.
Yeah, exactly. He and Johnny V, boy, did they steal the show yesterday.
Well, yeah, 4 winners, I believe, and got the final one in race number 9. So it turned out to be a great day. Race number 10 or 9?
Race 9.
Race 9.
Songair, I think, as the man upstairs said.
Oh, Songair just got up under the shadow of the wire, so it was a great day for those connections. And, of course, I believe he has 11 wins now in our first 8 or 9 days of the meet.
Right. We've run 9 full cards here since a meet, by the way, that opened less than 2 weeks ago on December the 2nd. Now, as far as looking ahead, and we're really in store for a big weekend and a big Saturday with 5 graded stakes, come tomorrow afternoon with that Friday 10-race program, I should be half as lucky as Todd Pletcher and Johnny V as I take, and the thinker pose, I take my little shot at the Friday Beat the Expert, which is free to play over on our Gulfstream Facebook page.
And you get a chance to win one of those cool polo shirts that Jason's right there. And on the sleeve, it says Beat the Expert. And it's great. It's free. Play along with us on social media. And the more the merry. And you got a chance, as I said, to win one of those. Not only win one of those shirts, you get bragging rights. You can come here and tell them you whooped them if you happen to do that.
Want to hear it, man. Bring it on. And I want to hear the trash talking as well. Now, doing a little housekeeping. It's our annual daily right here on Gulfstream Today, and just getting you up to speed and in the loop with everything on tap. We begin a little after 12:35, and that 50-cent early pick 5. A bit later, in fact, about a half hour later, Ronnie, race number 2 starts the first high 5.
Yeah, we got the first high 5, $3,600 plus, and the reason it starts a race 2, you need 7 or more participants in the field to have the rolling super high 5. So starting in race 2 today with that nice carryover.
Just under 400 live Rainbow Six tickets heading in to the nightcap yesterday. It was Todd Pletcher, by the race, Todd Pletcher, by the race, Todd Pletcher, by the race. You get the point, but hey, just under 60K, man.
You're starting to build 56,000. There were no singles, as Jason just mentioned, going into the Rainbow Six after when the last race came about yesterday. So now we have 56, and we got the late pick 5, 50-cent wager.
All right, day number 10, let's do it. We're tied on as we get the scoring underway. We'll try to get lucky today with that opening pick 5 that coincides with race number 1, and a little $16 play to get everybody started. Big favorite, Ronnie, and to me, if you needed a single, as I did, to keep this affordable, and I would only ever give out a ticket on this show that I'd be willing to bet with my own money, our Sarge in race 1 seems like the shortest price favorite.
Yeah, I took a little guess. So I got on a ticket. Of course, you got to have him with equity on top. I think that horse maybe finally gets the job done today with the stretch out. But certainly a horse that you want to have somewhere on your ticket, and that is the number 1, our Sarge in the 2nd.
And a few key scratches on this card. There weren't a ton of them, but it does feel like in maybe 3 or 4 races, we lost some serious firepower in the form of early scratches today, and that is something something that happens in race number 1 this afternoon, as we had a scratch. In fact, scratches of the 2 inside runners, and the main one is the Chad Brown trained performance bonus. So that horse not running today. We're down to a field of 6, and as you saw from my ticket, I feel pretty comfortable using, and the board is a little all over the place, and keep in mind it is very early on in the wagering, of course, the 6 Adventus and the 8 Indian Guide, who I thought I was being a little bit of a wise guy picking on top. I was a little, I don't know, a little deterred seeing him as the morning line favorite, although I do think, I'm hoping, even with the scratch and performance bonus, we get more than 5-2.
Well, I think you'll get more than 5-2 on the board right now, 5-1. And I did have Chad's horse on top, so I scratched into the number 6 Adventist, who I thought was probably the one to beat in there, dropping a rung on the claiming scale this afternoon. Returned from a layoff at Churchill Downs, finished a 5-wide second against 40 open claimers going a mile into 16th. That was on a yielding course. More importantly, that was against open claimers. I think this one is to beat. Mike Maker, 26% with the second start after a 45 to 180 day layoff. I just thought he was the logical choice, especially with the scratch of Chad Brown's horse.
He's a nice horse, this Adventist, and I'd be shocked, and Maker not the kind of guy, I think the type of operation you're running to the claiming box to claim horses off him, because he's just such a world-renowned trainer, and especially on the turf. But Adventus seems worth the $35K to me, and I think is the horse to beat. Indian Guide, he was where I went on the outside for one main reason. Well, it's kind of a twofold reason. First off, his turf races speak for themselves. I mean, you go back to his races throughout the championship meet last winter, he was very good for Saffie Joseph Jr. at a high level.
Yeah, and they tried him in the claiming Crown Jewel last time out. Things didn't work out.
And Speed killed that day on the main.
That's right. That's right. Speed killed. And I just thought that this horse was against it in that race, going in because of the surface switch. So a logical contender in there. Got it on my ticket, but I went a little further down, got hung up on Adventus. And like we said, the Chad horse being scratched in there first sort of shifted my selections around.
And before we turn the page, a quick pop to the 7, What Power. Trying to find some interesting replays to pull, and I don't know if maybe you like this horse on top to win the race, but I do think, especially considering the opener is a field of 6, this horse off a very troubled traffic-filled trip November 18th at GPW is worth a look for trainer Marcus Battalion, Luis Saez. Antonio Gallardo, the number 2 horse, did everything right on What Power, but at times you live by the sword and you die by the sword. Feel bunched up turning for home, and if we could just freeze it, I'll just highlight him one more time. He's got the blue cap and the little pom-pom on top. There is just nowhere to go. I mean, this almost looks like the Kentucky Derby, Ronnie, on turf in Miami Gardens. And What Power won't be able to get up in that hole, and he just takes the worst of it, losing any chance he had to win.
And he looked like he had a shot to be somewhere on the ticket when that happened. So that's a good video you pulled to show in there, and certainly had some trouble. And the horse taking some early money on the card. But as we said, this race sort of shifted around with the scratch of the 1 and 2, but after that, you might want to go back and add that one to your high 5 ticket.
My single in the pick 5 is our Sarge in race number 2 as we hit the main track for this 3 and up 2 lifetime 6250 claimer. I'd like to see an Eddie Please's Jersey shippers to Florida did pretty well throughout the fall. I guess he joined us maybe around the second half, day 20 or so, give or take, of GPW through the end, and he had a number of live drop downs from up north, and I'm just hoping our Sarge can get the barn a win and gets them off to a good run this weekend, having Mr. Jordan in Saturday's co-featured Harlan's Holiday.
Yeah, Mr. Jordan, if you don't know, very fast horse and a great horse to watch. We'll be watching that horse, as you mentioned, on Saturday. Our Sarge, you know, is making its local return after shipping from Monmouth over to Gulfstream West, rallying to finish 3rd behind. Who else? That's what you keel for all the time. Clanta Claro going 5 furlongs last time out. Eddie Please, Gilbert Tremafi is a main rider so far this fall, named to ride. But I did go with equity, and I'll tell you why. We got our exacta flip-flop. Might have finally found the spot where to notch that elusive non-winners of 2 lifetime condition hit the board in 4 consecutive races at this level. What I like, the stretch out from 5.5 to 6 furlongs today, I think can be the deciding factor. Would I leave our Sarge off? Absolutely not.
All right, so maybe it's a 2-horse race, and it may ultimately come down to, and I say this with peace and love, a battle of the bridesmaids because they have burned some money. They have a number between them close finishes without winning on their current resumes. Field of 6 set to go in race 3, and this is very much a card in which we kind of main track it for the first half, and then the second half is pretty much all about the Gulfstream Park turf as we bring on these 1 mile on the dirt 2-year-old filly $25,000 claimers down to a field of 6 and a very early scratch, key early scratch of the one About a Dream, and that it's a bit of a bummer. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. She might be sick. Maybe there was a little issue, but I wasn't totally sold on her and thought she was actually very vulnerable as maybe an overbet favorite dropping down. And with her absence, the betting is going to shift drastically. And I would imagine my top pick, Savannah Roxana, who just seems, if she can dirt, and that's the main question, she seems to make a lot of sense, as does the 640 kilos, who I think the jury might still be out about her talent level. And I say that because she's got legit excuses, I think, in her last couple.
I found this race very hard to handicap. You know, and I went with the 640 kilos, drop it to the 25 level, and stretching out to mile, chasing the pace, it faded to finish 4th by a horse that a repeat winner that ran really well. And that was Tony Ann's Miracle. That was a 50 optional claimer going 3/4. It was on a wet surface. Peter Walder, Joel Rosario named to ride. I'm not totally convinced, but with the scratch of the one who was the 9-5 morning line favorite, I think 40 kilos certainly should benefit from that scratch.
She's probably favored here as she tries to negotiate that closing kick, tries to sustain it at a mile this afternoon in what is now a 6-pack in race number 3. 4th on the card as we move right along and we get back on the turf with this 7.5 furlong, 3-up filly mare, $35,000 maiden claimer. Typical, and I know we're dealing in this one anyway as we inch closer to the Rainbow Six, Ronnie. More of a lower level maiden claiming race, but this is a fun race and very typical of this time of year. No matter the claiming level on the turf at Gulfstream Park, you've got drop downs, you've got some shippers, you've got new claims, whole heck of a lot going on. And as it stands, you and I, speaking of shippers, like the New York horse in Julia's Pride.
Yeah, Julia's Pride is going to drop a notch, turn back to mile after showing improved speed when blinkers were added. That was at 40,000 maidens going a mile. And the 16th, it was up a step up in New York at Aqueduct. Jorge Abreu, Joel Rosario, lightly raced daughter of Proud Citizen, thinks the logical choice in there.
Wired last time out by a 2-1 favorite up on that new outer turf course at the Big A. And I can tell you that the runner-up returned off that race, Kusama, and ran a very good second at around 20-1 in a much tougher maiden special weight race up in the Big Apple. Now, the number 2 Crave might be considered, and you've got that horse third. I've got that horse capping my 7-2 Exacta. In a way, one of the wild cards, and it's kind of silly to put that moniker on her because she's kind of a proven commodity around here in the sense that she's had a lot of chances and she is a money burner if there ever was one. However, for a filly claimed by Todd Pletcher, or I should say trained at one time by Todd Pletcher, and then Jonathan Thomas, I still find her interesting because she's off the claim for Mike Maker.
Yeah, but let's show you a stat on Mike Maker first after the claim. In all maiden claiming levels on the turf, and 6 for 27, 22%. He's in the money 56% of the time. $1.89 return of investment. And you're right about this one. There was the odds-on choice across down at Gulfstream Park West, and didn't come up the winner in that particular race. So Crave, I sort of backed off there and put her on my ticket, but not on top.
From 2 outstanding horsemen to another outstanding horseman. Maybe we get the same effort out of Crave. We'll find out. I think she adds a real level of intrigue just because of what she's done and the amount of money she's burned in race number 4. And with the first 4 down, it's all about the rainbow. Sun is out, rainbow to catch. Ronnie's pick 6 after this.
Pennsylvania, proud of our growing breeding and racing industry. Tens of thousands of jobs with a massive economic impact. Leading the way in testing and aftercare. Only 3 states have bred more Breeders' Cup champions. Plus, we have North America's most lucrative awards program. Up to 40% in breeder awards and owner bonuses. 400 plus restricted races annually, and our program has paid out $30 million for the 5th straight year. Breeding and racing in Pennsylvania. It's a winner.
Well, we hope to come up with some winners today on this 10-race day number 10 here at Gulfstream Park. Ron and Jason catching up with you for the second segment, and one pretty much dominated by turf racing, as we still have 2 races on the main to get to, and one of them concerns the opening leg of your Rainbow.
And let's show you my ticket here, and I did go 3 deep in here, and I was really confused at what to do with the Zito drop down in here. 5 can't go. Added it to the ticket. I was trying to not to, but I figured that would be the safe way. And you see the rest of the progression. No singles this afternoon. $43.20. I came close to singling the number 6 horse in race number 8. That's Warranty from the Chad Brown barn, but I went too deep in there. And you see the progression, $43.20.
Yes, Chad might have the second shortest price favorite on the card today, maybe behind our Sarge in race number 2, is Chad has Warranty coming down from the Big Apple off a nice win. A win we'll show you in just a few moments. But getting back to the 5th, we are down to a half a dozen. In fact, the bookends, the number 1 Grand Godspeed and the outside runner, the number 8 Dazzling Pros, scratched out of today's 5th race. And you're left, again, I think the starting point is trainer Nick Zito, and the fact that his maiden claimers, we saw a couple win on the turf, dropping in, returning to Florida, and dropping down in Knight Errant and Storm Scat, and they were well bet. And I'm just going to follow that winning line here with the 5, Ken Go, who plummets to the bottom, and a new face that's good enough for me with Luis Saez.
And talking to Nicky when he first arrived here back in South Florida, I asked him, and he said he's just putting horses where they're supposed to be and where they can win. And I think that's the case here. And as you mentioned, late equipment change, blinkers off this afternoon, plummeting to this level, racing without those blinkers, showed speed and retreated. That was 50 maidens at Keeneland, so this one looks like the logical choice. That's the 12-5 level, excuse me.
Yeah, I like this horse dropping in for 12-5. The main danger to me, losing the inside horse Grand Godspeed, might just be your top pick, and I think it is your top pick, the number 7, Bull Roar, who, as far as going this mile on the dirt, and again, all these horses are in the same boat. They've all got to stay the 8 furlongs, which was probably a pretty big hurdle for this crew. But he's got some foundation and an okay, not great, but an okay prep going 7 last time.
Yeah, it's going to stretch out to the mile. He responded last time out to that drop down in competition. He was improved. He was second at this level and distance, despite the fact, if you go back, he stumbled a little bit at the start. As Jason mentioned, going 7/8 of a mile. It's Ralph Nix, Edgar Zayat, so top connections. And I went with them. Just not sold on the Nicky horse on the drop. But as you saw, my Rainbow 6 ticket could not leave it off.
Right, you use the 3rd horse, Grand Fortress. It really seems like it's going to come down, unless something goofy happens, of course, between Grand Fortress for Barboza, Ken Go for Nicky, and the 7, Bull Roar, who did stumble, quickly recovered last time out, going 7/8 in that 2nd place finish. 5 to go as we kick off the late pick 5 with our final dirt race on the program. 8 set to go in the opening leg of the late 5, a 3 lifetime 3-and-up filly and mare claimer. And even mentioning Victor Barboza Jr., who had a daylight win off the claim yesterday. Little Matt, I think that horse's name,
yeah,
right? That feels right. That horse galloped away, and Victor has got Grand Fortress in the 5th as a major player, and he really holds a strong hand, Ronnie, in this opening leg, running the number 5 horse, Flying Girl, and a horse I think can make it close off a trainer change in Leopard's Hill.
Yeah, Leopard's Hill Road. If you look at this horse, this one, Victor Barboza Jr., we showed a stat yesterday. Monster performances first off the claim. Flying Girl is the one to beat, but I believe in the spot.
Yes, a Flying Girl, very well spotted. And again, as I mentioned a few moments ago, Warranty coming down from the Big Apple for Chad Brown is my single in race 8. Chad has really been patient with her despite some layoffs and some gaps in her races. He has never dropped her down into a claiming race as far as recent times go, and I think that might be a feather in her cap and a positive as she gets in with some Florida breds today. But again, it is very much, at least starting out this late 5, about Victor Barboza and the 5 Flying Girl, who's just the horse to beat. She'll look to make amends, and you talk about a tough loss last time out as a big odds-on favorite and being cut down in a race we'll show you by a big long shot at 16-1. As they straighten away, I mean, you've got Flying Girl. I didn't think she could lose this race. She looks like she's home. A long drive for sure, and she'll run well in a tooth-and-nail stretch drive, but in the end, picked off late by Steph Got Even. Perhaps Ronnie getting back to 1 turn, because keep in mind, this was a 2-turn mile over in Miami Gardens. Maybe that'll help her out.
I think that's going to help her out this afternoon. As you mentioned, you're going to see this finish here just gets beat by a whisker at the end. So a Flying Girl defeated 6,252 lifetime claimers here at this distance. If you go back to that race, won that race by like 9.5 lengths, returns becoming within the nose. You saw that performance when trying a 2-turn mile across town. Victor Barboza, MCL Jaramillo in the saddle again.
Now, my feeling with the 7 Leopards Hill Road, higher priced of the 2 Barboza horses, and this horse got in, I can presume, into Victor's operation quite some time ago, because this filly by Awesome, of course, has a little over 40 days between races. And overall, Victor's bats about 22%. First start off of a trainer change. And although she looks nowhere near as dominant on the dirt as the 5 Flying Girl, she's going to be a much bigger price, my friend.
And she loves this track. 8 starts, 2 wins, 3/3. So 5 for 8 in the money. Maybe she wakes up Leopard Hill Road today and turns the tables. You know the old adage of the longer price.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping it works out today. I used them both, and Flying Girl's going to be a clear chalk, but don't sell the other Barboza short in race number 6. 7th race beckons, and this actually jump starts an all-turf late pick 4 here as we head to the green with this 2-year-old filly, $50,000 maiden claimer, set to go with a field of 11. And man, this race is a tough one. There are horses coming, there are horses going, number of unknowns on the turf, and I guess the starting point, to be fair, is your top pick, the number 1 Super Witch, who with a pretty good covered up between ride ran really well behind my Masterpiece first
And this
out.
is by far the best betting race on the card in my estimation.
It's a good one.
Super Witch is trained forwardly up at Palm Meadows in preparation for that first start. Since a promising, really, I thought it was a solid 35 career debut at the distance. She made that move to get the lead before settling second behind a repeat winner called My Masterpiece here. That was back on September 28. Chad Summers, Tyler Gaffleone, inside draw this afternoon. And I just thought off that performance, probably the one to beat in there. But I see that you have the number 3 horse on top of your ticket. And I didn't really know what to do with that horse. I got it on the ticket, but I didn't use it on top.
She looks like a fuzzy, but what won me over, this stat will show you, with Burke's Garden, a Speightstown filly conditioned by Hall of Famer Bill Mott. And she does have Johnny V, and she's dropping in a maiden claiming race. And this is a move, maybe Mott doesn't do it all that often, but his 2-year-old special weight to maiden claiming drop downs have won close to 30% of the time. And in a field as contentious as this one, and with the fact that her best race thus far came on the turf at Ellis Park, she should be a fair enough price that I said, you know what, let me put my eggs in the basket of Burke's Garden. You've also got some contenders towards the outside, like the 10 Bernatina, who's a Bernardini filly, yet another drop down in the race as she makes her maiden claiming debut for Mark Cassie and does get Luis.
Yeah, dropping to the $50,000 level after racing exclusively on the Tepeta up at Woodbine. It's a daughter of Bernardini, Luis Saez, surface switch this afternoon. Got it on a ticket. That's the one I'm not sold on, even though I have it in third. I didn't know what to do with that horse. I haven't seen horses translate yet at this meeting thus far from the Tepeta at Woodbine to the turf or dirt here yet. It's always a work in progress, South Florida, because we get a lot of Woodbine shippers. We love them coming down here. And some years they do fantastic right away. Sometimes they need a race.
And it seems like there's been quite a few, or not quite a few, but a handful, give or take, of those Woodbine shippers. And they've all had like wise guy-ish looks to them and have been bet kind of wise guy-ish there as well and have underperformed. You got a couple of key ones today. The Nicholas Gonzalez horse I picked earlier on in the card, race 3, in fact, I think. So Bertatina for the Cassie Barn and Wesley Ward with the firster as well. The number 9, Kittens Cover Girl, as this Kittens Joy filly runs for 50 first out. I can tell you, 2-year-old turf firsters, maiden claiming company, Wesley Ward, has only run 6 over the last 5 years with 1 winner.
We got one stat I wanted to show you here. One first-time starters, maiden claimers on the turf, 24%, 48% in the money, return of investment of $2.61, but that's over a long stretch. And, 24%, 48% in the money, that's okay. So, Kittens Cover Girl, Wesley Ward, one of those trainers, I bet him, he loses. I don't bet him, he wins.
So you got him second.
Yeah.
And you got him covered in the Rainbow Six, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. Oh, yeah. All right, let's move on to race 8. The man's confident, folks, as we move on to our feature on the card, this Florida bred $16,000 allowance optional claimer. This is the West Point race of the day, West Point Thoroughbreds race of the day. Happy to have them on board as sponsors with us this meet at Gulfstream Park. And these are 3 and up fillies and mares. And we've mentioned Warranty a couple of times. Ronnie considered singling her in his Rainbow Six. I singled her in my late pick 5. And why don't we look at this Artie Schiller's win, hard-fought win last time out, way up north at Belmont Park. Now, I think historically, her running style, more of a late-running, grinding type horse, hasn't played or doesn't play all that well on the inner turf at Belmont. She was still good enough to get the money, and you can't miss her in the red and white silks of Klarovich and Bill Lawrence on the outside. And she's up there in time. She grinds away. She gets the victory. And the fact that she ran as cheap as $40,000 in mid-October of 2016 and has only run 3 times since then. And Chad's not the kind of trainer who's just going to waste races. He puts them where they can win. And all of his horses, I mean, he's a great trainer. They're honed to perfection. The fact that he hasn't dipped her down in class, I think, is a positive. And I think she's going to run great, as do you, against Florida Breds.
Yeah, and, Chad Brown, I don't have to tell you all the positive stats. He's over 25% with horses winning consecutive races with this type of layoff of 61 to 180 days. I mean, it's Chad Brown, so you got to have this horse. But I wasn't completely sold, and that's why I used the 7 OKK, who ran exceptionally well against tougher on the turf here last winter. Returns looking to rebound off a pair of so-so allowance races up at Monmouth and Delaware Park. Jane Sibeli, English Channel. This is the daughter of English Channel, training consistently up at Palm Meadows. I remember this horse from last year, and that's why I wanted to add this horse on the ticket. I thought it ran pretty well here.
All right, as Albin Jimenez takes the call for trainer Jane Sibeli, who did get on the board with a victory here Sunday afternoon. 9th race, pair of turfers to bring you here as the late double kicks off with this 7.5 furlong, 2 lifetime, 3 and up filly and mare claimer. 10 set to go, and there are some chunky size fields. In fact, 10 in race 9 and then a dozen in race 10 to cap day number 10 here at Gulfstream Park. However, the caveat, big early scratch of the 9, Feed Me Carrots, who may have been vying for favoritism had she stayed in for Jeremiah Engelhardt. By the way, Jeremiah unleashed a real good-looking 2-year-old yesterday in Projector. 91 buyer, losing a tough one to that Pletcher horse in yesterday's 7th.
Yeah, and you had mentioned you heard something that it could run, and it certainly lived up to the expectations and ran well. And, I give out a long shot each day, and I'm seeing that you have it on the top. I was a little sad when I saw the scratch of the 9 horse in here, because I thought this horse might be a little bit ignored. She's right again, who won on the turf here, going a mile up at Tampa last February. Stretches out, but I thought that 5 furlong race to come back at Gulfstream West sets her up perfectly this afternoon. I knew I'd get a little bit of a price. Now that you put it on top, I don't know.
I don't know how much money I move, man. I'd like to think I move a lot of money. I don't think I move a red cent, save maybe the $2 win tickets my dad's betting up in Stewart on my picks with his expressbet.com account. Anyway, there's a plethora of positives that today is go time for She's Right Again. I do want to mention, though, the 6:16 sister and the trip she got last time out. And as she switches to Joelle Rosario, I feel as though she's going to run a big race today. There is a Fish song, the rock band Fish, that I like a lot. And there's a song called No Man's Land. And I think that phrase basically does her trip justice last time out. Now, if we could just freeze it there, she's the number 6. She's off here. These horses to the inside have a little more forward position. And just watch as we roll the tape again and they hit the clubhouse turn. This is just basically, for the most part, an impossible trip to win with and to finish up strongly with on the turf. Hung out to dry, 4 wide, not saving ground, and having to run pretty hard to even keep your position on the flanks of those horses who are inside. This race, I do think, a complete throwout for Sistine Sister, and she even moves up even a little closer into the backstretch. Her day was done. I like the fact that they've gone back to the drawing board. Speaking of caveats, though, it is worth pointing out, because I do think she'll run well. The major hang-up, of course, the 1-for-18 lifetime record.
I put that in my analysis today for that exact reason. That's why I wasn't sold on it. She's a daughter of Temple City. 1-for-8, she drops. That's what I think is more important into a competitive spot. She's racing without the blinkers this afternoon. She chased the pace, as you saw, and faded. It was a bit of a clunker, but that was 25 level going on September 28th, and she was up against it, and so we'll see how it goes. I think the drop down to 16 is really going to help her this afternoon. Thus, we put her on top of the ticket, and I used the 11 Leroy's Mummy, Jane Sibeli, once again in my ticket.
Who's got Gaffleone and Jane Sibeli seeing plenty of action here fairly late in the card. Can't get much later than race number 10 as we bring down the curtain with a dozen. No rest for the weary here, folks, as we have a big field in this 2 lifetime $16,000 claiming race at 7.5 furlongs, and the kind of race where you might get some varied opinions. I do want to mention that the 7 Could Be was a late scratch and a well-bet effort here last week, and actually got loose following the post parade. Spooked from something, lost the rider, and ran off and was a late scratch. Glad to see he is back on short notice. Give me a little Peter Walder late double with the 8 Staying Cruise. I figured, and maybe a bad opinion last time, I like this horse at GPW. Nowhere, not going to hold a bad effort late on that Gulfstream Park West turf course against a horse that I liked last time.
I'm going to go with the 2 in here. Want to be a player, cutting back slightly to this about the distance of 7.5 furlongs. Made that middle move, got the lead before settling for second, beating the length as the favorite. 22 lifetime claimers going a mile across town. So I just thought that was the logical one. But I'm going to take a look at your number 8. We're certainly going to get more. Who was the favorite in that race, actually? The 2 horse.
2 horse Want to Be a Player,
Yeah.
and I would imagine the number 7 Could Be. He'll take quite a bit of money. The fact that he's only run a couple of times and does get Luis Saez, our man in red, standing by.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, he's right there. Pens, pencils, tablets, iPads, iPhones ready. Pete Aiello, the voice of Gulfstream Park, is coming your way next with Thursday's Scratches and Changes.